Let's get this show on the road for real.
You know, I would love to start off an episode with like a wrestling entrance. Like, you know how they have like fireworks and this
Oh,
super dramatic.
fireworks and yeah. Read
Yeah.
out our stats.
Yeah. That's a
Height,
good idea.
weight, followers, follower count,
Yeah,
tweet count.
your nickname and everything like. Right, fuck it. YOLO. Here we go. I need to take a breath. Oh, this is the worst. Right. Zen philosophy. Everything is one. Be part of everything. Blend in with the air. What's going on, guys? My name is Eldenero, and welcome to episode 6 of the Midnight Hour. It feels like ages since I've been recording this, so this intro might be a little bit weird, but my guest once again is the blue whale slaying, beard having, 7 foot tall standing, low glowing, I don't know, current reigning WWE heavyweight champion, weighing in at 227 pounds. He is the all-American hero, I think. Is that what you call yourself? It's Jack.
Yeah, why not? You alright? How's it doing? How's it doing? How's it going?
How is it
Whatever.
doing?
I've been awake for quite a long time at this point. Let's roll.
And I haven't, but I'm
No.
still just really incoherent for some reason. But actually, you had a birthday since the last one we did.
Yeah, I'm
Turned
45.
28. Oh, 45, yeah. You look like a 28-year-old, 45-year-old.
Oh, thanks. I try to keep young, you know.
Yeah, that's an important thing. You know what the worst thing
Drinking
about
helps.
getting old is when you find out that you like your cooking more than other people's. So like if someone wants to make you something, you're more inclined to just make it yourself.
I've been there for a long time now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't find, you know, the whole grabbing a lighter or a spoon and the right strand of H is, you know, a really job that I really enjoy doing, and cooking up some heroin is something that I really pride myself on.
Yeah, it's a good way to live your life. I think it keeps you skinny as well. And it's
Never see a
just-
fat crackhead.
I don't think anyone ever has.
Nope, and that's a motto to live by, kids.
Yep. Lifestyle tips from the Midnight Hour. Speaking of getting older, because I thought this is a good segue, a lot of people have asked us to talk about nostalgia, and instead of, like, I looked at this and I was thinking about the kind of broad aesthetics of the very concept of nostalgia itself and how I could work that into a podcast, and it was Jack who made a really good point, and he was just like, if we talk about nostalgia, we're just going to end up talking about games, movies, and music, and that actually sounded really good. So what we're going to do is talk about our top 5 games from a nostalgic point of view, like the games that we really enjoyed playing when we were younger. We're going to talk about that because, as well as, like, we're both video gamers, you know, like, we're both gamers. A lot of people who are subscribed are most probably gamers, or else how did you find my channel? This conversation will just consist of us listing our top 5 favorite video games. Due to the subjectivity of the topic, we're not here to definitively name the best game ever, so if you disagree, don't be a dick. But I'll start off. My number 5 is Grand Theft Auto Vice City. And like most great things in the world, I guess, this game came out in the early 2000s, and it was accompanied by a resurgence in the popularity of the movie Scarface. And I don't know if Scarface became popular again because of Vice City, or if Vice City just really capitalized on some kind of cultural movement. I don't know if everybody, when they get to the age of 12 or 13, gets interested in that movie, or if Vice City just kind of put that idea back in people's heads. But it had Ray Liotta, who plays what's the guy's name? Henry Hill in Goodfellas, which is one of the greatest movies ever made. He was the voice of Tommy Vercetti in the game, which makes it automatically awesome. It was set in the 80s in Miami, just like Scarface. There's a lot of parallels between the game and that movie. Like, have you seen Scarface? You know the scene where he tells Chi-Chi to get the yayo. I think that's how everyone will remember it. He just goes, Chi-Chi, get the yayo, and they've got the chainsaw in the bathroom. And that they're in this sort of hotel that overlooks the beach in Miami. You can basically go into that exact room in Vice City and pick up the chainsaw. That's where you get it. It had a whole like gangster-esque feel to it, as all the GTAs have, I guess. But it also had like the 80s disco sort of vibe and 80s fashion sense and things like that. The radio stations were all incredible. Especially V-Rock. I actually have that on my computer because I listen to it regularly. It's so good. I guess like the gameplay itself was pretty simplistic in comparison to any GTA game that followed it, but it was the fact that your character had spoken dialogue, whereas in GTA 3 the guy that you were never said anything. And I love GTA 3, that was a really significant game, but Vice City just was sort of everything I wanted from GTA 3. There was a lot more to it as well. Like, it was the first GTA game where you could drive a motorbike. Well, in the 3D ones, could you drive a motorbike in the old ones?
In the old top-down 2D ones?
Yeah.
No, I remember trying to drive cars, and that was a fucking task in itself. And I don't think they had motorbikes at that point.
I remember, like, I'm really, I think I'm a really good driver on GTA. Like, I will drive really fast and I will not hit anything, and I really pride myself on it. If I have a car and it gets dented, I get legitimately pissed off. And I remember in the original GTA, the 2D ones, I remember being a really good driver in that as well. So I don't know how that happened. It was something that I cared a lot about, you know. But Vice City was just, I don't know, it was an incredible game. I remember when it came out as well, it was pretty much banned everywhere. Well, not banned everywhere, but everyone wanted it banned. It had all of this, what would you call it?
Gang violence, essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the Grand Theft Autos and parts of them have been smashed, by the overprotective parents that don't even have kids half the time about it inducing gang violence, murders, all that good stuff, you know.
Yeah, I was reading, I read an article on The Guardian when GTA 5 was coming out about how GTA is filled with misogyny and stuff, and this guy put it in a really, really good way. He said, what do you think is the misogynistic part of it? Like, the fact that you can get a prostitute and then kill her and get your money back. Like, does that not kind of point to the fact that prostitution is a seriously dangerous field of business to be in, and that they have no protection and stuff? Like, you can look at it that way and then draw your own conclusion that way, you know? Like, I mean, we could probably do a whole separate podcast about how video games don't influence violent behavior and things like that. But that sort of infamy has always been attached to GTA, and I think if anything, it actually helped it thrive more as a game. It definitely, to be honest, I was always a GTA guy. I think those 3D games, though, as soon as they became 3D, they really did take on a world of their own with the whole open world aspect, and the fact that you could do anything you wanted between missions, and the fact that there were side missions, like you can drive an ambulance and
oh god, the old ambulance and fire truck missions,
and the taxi ones.
Oh god,
those were so good. But Vice City, I don't know, Vice City kind of brought it all home, I think. GTA 3 was a huge hit for it was one of the first PS2 titles, but Vice City just did everything that little bit better. And I don't know, I really, really enjoyed Vice City. I imagine even if I played it again today, it wouldn't be like a chore to play, you know. I think it would still be pretty enjoyable.
See, I mean, you listed it as number 5. Mine are in no particular order per se, but I mean, one of them on my list is actually San Andreas over Vice City. I just remember it, especially being a nostalgia-based chat that we're having. Just remember it being kind of, we were sat in at my dad's mum's, so my grandma's house, and my cousin had his PS2 set up, and he had this new GTA game that my grandma had naively bought him. And it was kind of we had to turn the sound off so that no one heard the amount of swearing that was coming off the TV, so none of the adults would come in and turn it off, because I mean, that was what, 2004, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So 10 years ago, so I'd have been 11.
Jesus.
Yeah.
You would have been 34, you mean?
Yeah, sorry. 34. But yeah, it was, it was the game, and ever since, it's still been the game that everybody wants. It's that kind of it's that game that everybody wants, no matter what.
Yeah.
If you know what I'm saying. No matter how naughty that's such a bad way to describe it. That sounds so sexual for some reason.
I know, that word has been totally ruined. That word can just I can never say that word without feeling a little bit unclean.
A little bit dirty, yeah. It's taboo, I suppose, for your parents.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Beating up hookers, the whole basis, Grand Theft Auto, stealing cars, and just killing people. It was always that game that it was kind of a begging
it's dangerous.
Yeah, it's dangerous, and that's kind of the fun of it.
Yeah, it's what your parents want to keep you away from. And what's actually interesting about that I've just thought about is, remember there was a lot of gangster rap in that game.
Yep. Oh,
and I think Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses was in there as well. And that kind of music, when that originally came out in the 90s, was also music that people wanted to keep their children away from, because it was so explicit in its nature, and it was just things that, like, I got into rap like from a pretty young age, and I was listening to Eminem and things, and I remember like people telling me not to listen to it because it had so much swearing and, like, you know, talking about people killing people and stuff. And it's interesting that they use that music to a game that very much captured the exact same sort of hostility that original music had in the 90s. And I guess now that we're in the year 2014, the GTA games have held the same cultural relevance and place as the music that was originally, you know, tried to be banned and stuff like that, which is
I mean, I think what's interesting with GTA, the most recent iteration of the series actually, is the introduction of actually, you know, white American lead characters, as it were. You know, previously, sure, you were playing as white characters in what was it, GTA 4. Was Nico,
yeah, but
he was Eastern European, you know, and it's always kind of been that outside America kind of.
Yeah, even that, Tommy Vercetti was of Italian
American, you know,
and he was based on the Cuban Al Pacino from Scarface. Like, he's very much, even though he might be American and all, he's still pretty much masquerading as an American. He's an immigrant. It was all about, you know, not kind of I hate to say that it was like immigrants are dangerous, but it was almost like the dangerous ethnics, as it were. Well, I think with, like, the way it is in America is that they'll give you a lot more leniency if you're not implying that there's anything wrong with American culture. You know what I mean? Which is another interesting part of GTA, because Rockstar, even though, like, they are a Scottish company, but they really do parody pop culture incredibly well. Like, you're driving along in a car, like, you listen to the radio stations, the adverts for movies are so over the top and ridiculous, and even the adverts for things like the drugs that keep you awake and the stupid reality TV and everything, they really have nailed down a brilliant parody of American culture.
I think the whole pop culture references and just the depth and the genius that the Grand Theft Auto game goes to has always been in the radio stations.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, especially because I've been playing, obviously, GTA 5 a lot recently.
Yeah.
And I mean, even going past the radio stations, I mean, the advertisements on that are hilarious. Like, if you actually listen to them, and then if you get on to things like, even really childish things like all the company names that you can invest in.
Yeah, I know.
They're all basically dick jokes.
Yeah, well, there's like the Nasdaq in GTA 5 is called the Bossack or something like that.
Yeah, and it's all these companies that are, you know, if they're actual real companies, or they could be real companies if the name was a bit less of a dick joke.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, it's actually, it really does show you how easy it is to make dick jokes about everything around you. Like, they did that so well. I just, the world that those games take place in is a really good, I think, sort of parallel with the way America's moving at the time, or the way America viewed things at the time. Like, even the band in Vice City are called Love Fist, and they're so clearly, everything that they do is like an innuendo. Like, all their songs are clearly about having sex and stuff, and you can listen to the music and just take it as what it is, but then when you listen to it a little bit deeper, you'll see that. And I think if you go back to listen to 80s music, you'll hear that in loads of 80s songs that are about things that you didn't think they were about when you were younger. And it's quite interesting how they've managed to, like, they must have had some, like, psychoanalysts or something, like someone in there to observe the culture at the time and to make such a really good parody of it. I think it works really well. But We'll move on from GTA, and I'll give my number 4. Again, like Jack said, his are in no particular order. Mine aren't either. This is just the order that I've written them down. The 4th one for me is Resident Evil 4. Did you play any of the Resident Evil games?
No, I haven't. This is a bit of a step out of my territory, really.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, this game came out in 2005, I think, and I'd played all the other games, all the other Resident Evil games, and they'd gotten to a stage where they were just really, really stale. It was like every single Resident Evil game was the exact same game, you know. There's this company, corporation, they're called Umbrella Corporation, and they're like a pharmaceutical company or something, and they have the worst business plan in the world, because their plan seems to be every year we'll release a new strain of virus that infects people and turns them into zombies. And it's just like all the games were the exact same. Like, it was actually ridiculous. And like, I played the first one when I was like 5 years old, and I was a little bit afraid of it because it was kind of a scary concept in general. But if you look back on it, the voice acting in it is atrocious. Like, it's so bad. But this game, Resident Evil 4, completely reinvented the series. Like, it had a scary atmosphere, not like any other game. The other Resident Evil games had an atmosphere that you could pretty much predict when something scary was going to happen, because let's say, for example, you're in the police station. When you walk past a window, the camera angle changes and it points towards the window, so it's obvious something's going to break through the window, and you just have to prepare for that. This game had more of... Did you ever play Silent Hill?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that game was scary as fuck. I don't care what anyone says. Resident Evil 4 was a little bit more like that. Like, the landscape was foggy. The music was very low key. Like, it didn't really keep you on your toes because it wasn't that predictable, you know. But it had a different dynamic. You start off as a guy called Leon, who has an incredible haircut and an incredibly cool jacket, and he had to infiltrate some mysterious town that's set in like it's set in the Industrial Revolution era. Like, it's like walking into the past in it, but I think it's meant to be in Spain, but they never, you know, explicitly say it's in Spain. And his job was to go and infiltrate this town to find the president's daughter who'd been kidnapped, and that's all you're really told at the start. And you find out that the T-virus isn't even referenced in the game. It's you're up against a bunch of villagers who have like pitchforks, and they're all crazy, like off their heads. It's not even kind of stated that they're zombies. They're just
mental.
Yeah, they're just mental, but they're infected with something called Las Plagas or something like that. They're called Los Ganados as well. Like, everything has a very Spanish feel to it. But it's really eerie. It was really disconcerting. There's one of the villagers has a brown paper bag over his face and a chainsaw. So you can imagine, and he takes about 20 shots before he goes down. Like, it was just, I don't know, it was incredible. But it also had the cutscenes in it were the ones that you had to like play along to. Like, it would come up, like someone would throw a knife at you and you'd have to press square to duck, that type of thing. It was the first Resident Evil game to bring that in, and it was just a complete reinvention of the series. It was an absolutely incredible game. Playing it was amazing, and they had this thing when you completed the game, you got to play this like arcade mode where everything's a little bit faster, the zombies go down a little easier, and you play against a time limit. And this was when I was an angry teenager, and I would just sit there and put on Slipknot and, you know, shoot everything that moves, and it was awesome. But yeah, that's pretty much Resident Evil 4 is one I just had to mention, obviously, because zombies and stuff.
Yeah, I think the closest I've come to playing a Resident Evil 4 or similar iterations of the game is in actual arcades itself. I mean, you mentioned the arcade mode at the end of Resident Evil 4. I mean, you know, where, you know, the ones...
House
bowling
of the
alleys. Dead. Yeah, House of the Dead, that's the one.
House of the Dead
and the like.
Incredible.
You know, I mean, you know, you pick up the gun that has a pump action, but it doesn't even work.
Yep.
You know, it's only got one gun left because someone's ripped the other one off the actual console. The screen's actually cracked in the top left-hand corner where someone's hit it with the butt of the gun.
Yeah.
You know, the mechanics, you've got to aim about 3 feet to the left of where you actually want to shoot.
Yeah.
You know, and you paid about £1 every time you wanted one life.
Yeah, that's
it was
what it was.
Fucking fantastic.
It was brilliant. I love that game. I remember there's a place in Ireland called Bray, and there used to be an arcade. Well, it's probably still there. I don't know. I haven't been there in a long time. Everyone I've ever known from there has stolen something from me, so I haven't gone back there. But House of the Dead, I used to have the top, I think the second highest score ever in that arcade, which you wouldn't know it's me because it was just one of the mash the keyboard jobs that I did on saving my name on it, but still, you know, I can still lay claim to that. I fucking love that game. Like, I completed the game before, and it was just, I don't know, incredible, awesome game.
Yeah, I mean, going back to you saying that you spent a few hours, you know, put on music, spend a few hours just killing everything in sight. I mean, one of the games that I've got written down on my list is actually GoldenEye for the N64.
Yeah.
And this always seems to be, I feel very cliched saying that GoldenEye on the N64 is one of my favourite games, because it seems to be on almost everyone's list.
I think that's because it was so fucking good.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, if I went back and played it now, I would probably be like, why are there only 7 pixels on the screen? What the fuck is this shit?
Why was Pierce Brosnan James Bond? Who let that happen?
But yeah, I mean, that is the first game that I remember of really sitting down, and it would be a case of, you know, your mate brings over his controller and plugs it in, and you sit there for the next 7 hours. And then another one of your mates turns up 4 hours later, and then you're playing like 1v1 all on this less than 20-inch box screen, elbowing each other to get the closer view so you can actually see what's going on. And whoever got the bottom slot was like the fucking king, because you got a third of the screen, whereas the other, like, you know, you got the bottom half of the screen instead of 2/4 at the top.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so I've just been on a bit of a rant there about that, but yeah, it was the first person shooter game that really introduced multiplayer into my life. I mean,
same.
It was just so fantastic. Like, if you put me in, I can't remember the name. I tried to look it up earlier, and basement room of GoldenEye doesn't help me at all. But if you put me in there, I'm pretty sure I could still remember my way to the armor.
Yeah, I can remember the one on the battleship or whatever it was. I think I could find my way around that map, and the one that was in like kind of a sort of like a nightclub, like sort of like the Skrillex room in Black Ops 2. There was a map in GoldenEye very like that, I think. If I'm remembering that right, which I'm sure I am, because I dedicated many days of my life to that game.
Yeah, many days of my well, I'm not even sure I was a teenager at this point, but
yeah, I wasn't, so there's no way that you were.
Yeah, my young life spent with that oddly 3-pronged controller in my hand.
Yeah, what was that?
I've always wondered that. I'm just making the assumption that Japan was attempting to breed some sort of 3-armed gaming hybrid.
I think it was for when Godzilla finally took over the world, so that his kids could play. I don't know. I have one memory of GoldenEye that is, I mean, it's a story that you had to be there, so it's not that funny, but in my head it's hilarious. It's like, one of my mates came around to play it, and he'd never really played the N64 before, so he was an alien pretty much. But we were playing GoldenEye, and he was hiding, and I was sort of looking for him, and I don't know how we did it, how we worked that out, because it's split screen and I can fucking see exactly where he is. But I ran past him on the screen, and he went to shoot me, and he just chopped because he didn't have his gun equipped. Like, he tried to chop me from the distance, and that's the story. It wasn't really that good. I think I'm gonna piggyback on GoldenEye. I think I'm gonna have that as my number 3 or whatever number it was as well. Because that game was ridiculously good. I guess a similar game. I guess every first-person shooter that got big did pretty much take a lot of inspiration from GoldenEye, I think. And you should probably go first on this.
Yeah, I should probably lead into this one, because the next one on my list is Call of Duty 4.
Yeah.
And I'm sure pretty much everybody that's listening has played Call of Duty 4 at some point. It's probably more likely that they've played Call of Duty 4 than GoldenEye.
Yeah, very much
at this time. What can I say about Call of Duty 4? I didn't play the career until about a year ago.
Yeah. I started it a year ago as well, but I think it was when PSN must have been down or something. Like I must have been really out of options.
But the multiplayer was, as far as I'm concerned, the best Call of Duty multiplayer. In reality, I know it's not. Let's be honest. It's not the best multiplayer. It's got its faults, you know.
It's your opinion, though. You can't, like.
Well, no, but I know my opinion's wrong. I'm that cynical.
I don't even know how that works, but I'll allow it.
Does. But it's just based. My love of Call of Duty 4 is based off spending, like coming home, finishing my homework as quickly as possible to the bare minimum, and then jumping onto Call of Duty and with 5 of my mates going into a search and destroy lobby and screaming like little girls whenever someone shot at us.
Yeah.
Like things like that. I mean, we went on unbeaten runs for ages, just playing as a 6-man party, going into private lobbies and playing Mike Myers, the knifing game, which if you've never played, you're missing out on life, basically.
Yeah, you haven't really lived if you haven't played Mike Myers.
Because it's the most terrifying thing in the world.
It's fucking brilliant. Like, whoever originally came up with that concept is... I mean, it's not the hardest thing to come up with, but whoever kind of popularized it did a real service, because it adds a whole other dynamic to a game. Like, it makes it so that you can literally have 20 of your friends in the same game and you're all doing the same thing, and it's just it's awesome, that game.
And you're all shouting at one another, telling each other to run.
Yeah, and
then you hear one guy who's on the other side of the map going, "Oh God, he's here, he's here," and it's screaming like a girl, and then it being cut off suddenly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's here.
Yeah. and then that thing just popping up on the side of the bottom left-hand corner saying he's been knifed.
Yeah. Or it comes up and says, "First blood."
Yeah.
That was great as well.
But, there's just that massive nostalgia attached to it. I mean, playing through recent, I play Black Ops 2 a lot at uni because that's the most recent Call of Duty that both me and my housemate have. And it's just the simplicity of COD 4 that you could choose 3 perks, you could have a gun, 1 attachment, a secondary, and you had the 3 kill streaks. That was it.
I think Infinity Ward just did it better than Treyarch in every aspect. Like, and I know a lot of people will disagree, but what you have to respect as well is that I'm a PlayStation player, and Treyarch do not make games for PlayStations. Like, the amount of times on Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2 that my console has frozen just because their game is literally too fucking shit to work on a console. Like, you have to do a hard reset just to fix it, and I hated that. Whereas Infinity Ward, all of their games, my game for this is Modern Warfare 2, right? That's the one I'm saying here, because it was the first Call of Duty game that I ever played, and I think that's kind of what gets you in, is it's your first one. That's a huge part of it. I'll say as well, I played the campaign on Modern Warfare 2 because when I first got the game, I was living by myself, and I was in another country. I couldn't afford to pay for an internet bill or anything. And I had like a dongle for my internet, like you topped it up kind of thing. But I played the campaign. It was good. It was hectic. Hans Zimmer, I think.
Hans Zimmer did the score, yeah.
Yeah, so that makes it automatically amazing anyway.
Yep.
There was one mission where you killed a bunch of people in an airport, which
was... No Russian or whatever it was.
Yeah, that's the one.
Oh, God, that one.
That's
I remember playing that.
Radical inclusion, for a video game in the post 9/11 world, I'd say.
Yeah, big time. I mean, it caused massive controversy across the world.
Yeah, it did. But at the same time, the same people condemning it will go and watch some movie about... That's another topic for another day, I think. But that mission, and there was a mission where you're in the favela and you have to just run. You basically have to speed run through. You don't even have access to your gun. You have to avoid shots, jump out a window. I think little things like that made it slightly better than the typical first-person shooter story. But again, like, the online section is the main thing. And one thing I was going to say when I was bigging up Infinity Ward was that with Modern Warfare 2, as soon as I got access to the internet for that game and I was playing it, it was one of those things that I could come home from work, put the disc in, and within I honestly think within 30 seconds I'd be online. Like, I'd be finding a lobby, finding a game.
And then within half an hour, hating yourself and everything around you because it was
absolutely.
Modern Warfare 2.
With Modern Warfare 2, I had so much patience for it because I was new to it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there was a limit to my anger because there was only a certain amount of anger I could get at everyone else when I knew that I had a huge like learning curve to adjust to, because it was my first-person shooter game since GoldenEye, you know. But I donated, honestly, about like days of my life to this game, like 6 or 7, I'd imagine. For me, the maps on it were perfect. There were so many different play styles that I really enjoyed. A lot of people say it's shit because one-man army noob tubes, but if you remember when that game was at its height, its most active online, not many people did that because it wouldn't really get you anywhere. Like, I've never ever been in a lobby where someone's got to a nuke from one man army noob tubes. I've been in search and destroy lobbies where they've done it and it's been annoying, yes, but it's never really benefited anyone's game plan, you know. Like, it was never something that it was never a legitimate tactic at the time.
It wasn't until the game started to die out that one-man army noob tubes really became a problem, per se.
That's what I honestly believe that, because I know that my enjoyment of it was never hindered by it until around this time, like the April time, when the new game gets announced. But I still remember playing through the summer just before Black Ops came out, and I remember enjoying every minute of it. Like, it was never something that I think a lot of people blame Wings of Redemption for making that video. I don't think it was his fault, but
no.
I think grenade launches and things like that did get some kind of surgence in popularity towards the end of the game, but not throughout the game. Like, you had fucking quick scopers and
I think just thinking about it, I mean, you know, saying it was coming up to around now, just before summer. Just a thought, maybe it was because it was summer holidays. None of the annoying little pricks that did it were in school anymore. So you couldn't, like, you know, there was no chance to avoid it, as it were. They were almost always online. You know, some little prick from some country was always, they're usually French.
I see you and Rich say that an awful lot about the French. And
it's always the French.
I know that's sort of like a running joke. I've never had a problem with the French on the game, but one thing that I used to play Search and Destroy all the time, right? And I don't think that anyone, I know you don't either, I know this is all like just stuff that you say, but I don't think that any one particular group of people are, you can't really say that they're all the same psychologically or whatever, but I swear to God, every time I was in Search and Destroy against an army of either Spanish or Portuguese, anyone from the Iberian Peninsula, they just rushed every single Search and Destroy. They rushed Marathon Pro, Lightweight, and that tack knife. Every fucking time I would come up against someone from one of those Iberian countries, that's all they ever did, and I used to get so pissed about it. But the French, I never had any run-ins with the French.
I think my distaste for the French actually just stems back to having travelled on public transport in Paris.
Oh yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, that'll do it. If you've ever been to Paris, I'm sure you'll understand.
I was in a car crash in Paris, so when I was pretty young as well, but old enough to remember it, like, and that for that reason I'm never going back to Paris. I just remember it being chaotic on the roads and all. But I mean, it's a beautiful place and all. We're not trying to diss France, just just, you know, maybe if you could camp a little. No, I'm just kidding. Paris is great and all that, but yeah, that's those people who rushed on Search and Destroy, I will never forgive them.
I mean, you find those people on every Call of Duty though. I will never cease to be confused at how people can enjoy sitting in a corner, like. But those people exist in abundance. I
think it would be hypocritical of me to criticize them too much because I'm pretty conservative. But at the same time, I remember, right, the reason I used to... I never sat in a corner. Let's get that straight. I never did that. I used to be incredible. And I mean, this is a skill that I had at planting claymores and knowing where people would run to in certain things. And you can look at any route that people... Or route... Why did I say route? That's American. You can look at any route that people will take on a map. and put a claymore there. That's fair, but what you'll learn is as the game progresses, people learn to anticipate a claymore, so they'll move out of the way for it. I was good at putting them in the, like, I had an A, B, and C position for certain routes for claymores. I once got 21 kills on a 21 kill streak from claymore scavenge.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, like, that's how good I was.
That's a talent, yeah.
Yeah,
a real
exactly.
talent.
Like, it was just a legitimate skill of mine. But the reason that I had to play like that was because I used to have like 1 megabyte down, and yeah, so I couldn't keep up with the pace of a regular game, because by the time I was shooting at someone, I was already dead. Like, because my ping was like 174, so I pretty much had no hope ever. But when I did upgrade my internet, I did learn to get a lot more into the game. Like, and I mean, there's Call of Duty gameplay on my channel that if people want to check out, it's not incredible, but I have gotten Moabs and nukes, and like, I've won a lot of free for alls and stuff. Like, I don't know, I'm all right. Like,
I think I've always been kind of the opposite. No matter what my internet speed has been, my limited attention span has never allowed me to sit still for very long. I've always kind of been very go, come on, go, go.
I will say that my KDR on Modern Warfare 2 is 0.88. It's not even 1. It's the only COD where I don't have 1.5 or more. And the reason for that is when I first started it, the most fun thing for me to do was get marathon lightweight and run. And it wasn't necessarily like, this was in like domination and stuff, because when I used to play it originally, my only goals were following completing the objectives. Like, I used to just go and capture the flags all the time, so I used to have marathon lightweight on for that reason. But I would go like 5 and 37, but I'd be top of everything because I had the
captures.
Yeah, and people wanted me on their team for that reason. But my KDR suffered a lot, and then when I learned that I was all right at the game and that I could get better and better, I just went for it a little bit more, and I don't know, I learned how to be a little bit more tactical. I think as well, playing Search and Destroy all the time, you learn how to be patient with the game.
Yeah, I've always been very gung ho, but I've also always, which is probably the worst quality to go with it, I'm not a sore loser, but I hate losing. And
yeah, I did not like that either.
And I've always been I say always, since I guess since Modern Warfare 2 really. Since Modern Warfare 2 and through the Call of Duties, I'm not happy if I win a game and I've got under a 2KD.
Yeah.
And that's been something that's persistent, and it got to the point where it was me and one of my mates. We used to play Black Ops 2 Sabotage.
All right.
And we used to try and win the game as quick as possible.
Yeah, I've done that. And I have been cursed by people on my team for winning the game.
Yeah, we'd win. We had I think if I'm remembering it rightly, there was a YouTuber called Dunkus. I think he was friends with Woody's Gamertag, and he held a competition to see how fast you could win a game of Sabotage on Radiation. I think it was Black Ops 1.
Yeah, I remember that map. It was the one with the doors.
The one with the nuclear weapon launch pad doors.
Yeah.
Like in Countdown from COD 4. And we managed to win that game, I think it was under 45 seconds.
Jesus.
And it was a case of rush, grab the bomb, someone covers, and then overlap to get to the bomb site. No one knew we were there, plant it, defend, and done.
Yeah.
Like that was it, game over. And we'd come out with 3 kills each, and no deaths.
Yeah.
And that's how we played Sabotage for about half a year. And people hated us. Like, people cursed us on our team. Like, well, but that's just how we played the game.
In the early days of the early Call of Duty Online games, Sabotage was a game that had a 20-minute time limit. And in Modern Warfare 2, the number one rule for playing Sabotage is just do not touch the bomb.
Yep, don't plant the bomb.
Yeah, don't touch it. It'll get you killed. Like, just don't go near it. Leave the bomb where it is. Go get a shitload of kills and have a great time. And one time, me and one of my friends decided to just fucking let's play Sabotage, because we never ever play it. And it was on that map Trailer Park, which I have a story about Trailer Park for when I'm done with this. But it's just the middle of Trailer Park. The game starts and I run to the bomb. My friend is a sniper and he's behind me, and he he lets me go get the bomb, and then I plant it and he covers me, and the game was over. And this guy from like Manchester or somewhere like that was just screaming at me, like he was like, why did you plant the bomb? He was on my team, and he was like, why did you plant the bomb? Why didn't you let the game play out a little more? And I was like, because I'm here to win. I'm not here for you to try and get your nuke or whatever it is that you're doing. Like, I'm here to win the game, and that's what I did. Like, if you have a problem with that, then you need to look at yourself, you know. But my other story about Trailer Park was, I don't believe in karma, but you know, karma definitely fucked me this time. I was playing on Trailer Park. It was one of my favorite maps at the time, and I was going for a nuke. I'd never had a nuke, and I was getting closer and closer in every game, dying on a 22 kill streak and things like that. But I had done the Claymore tactic to get up to the Harriers, and then the Harriers came in and they just bombed the shit out of everything, and I got straight to my chopper gunner, and I got into my chopper gunner around the side. I sort of hid in some flowers next to one of the trailers, and the chopper flew in, and I was with like 5 of my friends, and our main goal when we were playing was like have a laugh, win a game, then work on your scores or whatever. But the chopper flew in. You know how they fly in and they're all over the place, and sometimes they never focus properly. It was like that, and I just said like, oh my god, fucking Colin McRae is flying this chopper or something, because he died in a helicopter crash.
Jesus.
I said that and everyone laughed, but it was like half the people laughed and the other half were like, ooh.
And you know that way you know it's a good joke when you get that reaction.
Exactly.
Ooh.
But you know what happened. I got to a 24 kill streak and someone found me and killed me, and I didn't get the nuke, and that's because I made fun of Colin McRae. So the lesson is never make fun of dead people, and that's why I didn't get it. If I didn't make that joke, if I just kept my game plan up, I would have just gotten
that nuke would have been yours.
Yeah, it would have. I would have had it. But will we move on from Call of Duty? Or
I think I'm gonna change the pace by quite a big step here. And the next game on my list is actually a PS3 exclusive.
Oh, interesting.
It is, well, PS3 exclusive. It was also released on PlayStation Portable and Vista.
Oh, well, they don't count.
No, exactly.
Nobody in the world knows somebody who has any of those.
No,
just things
I genuinely don't.
Yeah.
But it's LittleBigPlanet.
Oh, right.
And people that have probably listened to this are probably thinking, and your descriptions of me are probably thinking, what the ever-loving fuck is going on?
Yeah, but they also listen to the Guilty Pleasures one, so they know what you're really like.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. But if you've never played LittleBigPlanet, if you've never had the pleasure, it is narrated by Stephen Fry.
Oh, wow.
And you're what's called a sack boy, and you are essentially a plushie toy, and you have to run around in levels that I can only describe as being created by autistic 7-year-olds, because they look very cartoony and simple, but there is a lot of not difficult but very team effort elements as well, with friends and stuff like that, and it is like a 2D side scroller essentially.
I've never played it, but that sort of, the way you describe them as you need teamwork but they look simplistic, is that anything like Portal? It's
not as difficult as Portal gets.
Alright.
Well, I suppose it could be, but it's, you know, there is the single player element where you do have to kind of think about, well, how am I going to get up there with what I'm given?
Yeah.
You know, how do I get here with what I'm given? Stuff like that. So yeah, there is that kind of similar kind of element, I guess. But LittleBigPlanet, I just have so many memories of, you know, sitting with one of my mates, the same guy that I actually played a lot of Sabotage with, just sitting, you know, and coming over, and we'd chill for about 4 hours, because it was a really easy game to play. It wasn't one that included a lot of stress or anything like that. It was a game that you could sit down and just play and laugh until you cried because your little sack character fell into fire and screamed like a little girl because its arse is on fire.
Yeah.
Like ridiculous things, like it's just things like that made it such a fun game for me to play.
It sounds like I've never played it, but I think I actually got it with my PlayStation 3, but I traded it in on the day because I wanted to play Metal Gear Solid 4, so I got that game first. But you know how you kind of said you sort of felt the need to defend yourself for playing it because it has, I guess it has some sort of, not stigma,
childish.
yeah, right?
It's a childish stigma, really.
My friend from Codaline was like, the only reason I say, like, I could just say my friend, but it's because he was in an interview on TV, and that's why it's relevant. But he was asked what his favorite video game was, and he said LittleBigPlanet. And he had this look on his face that was like he was ashamed of it. Like he had to like laugh about it, and he was like, "Yeah, LittleBigPlanet is honestly my favorite game." And I don't know, I've never played it, but even like Steve tells me that it's amazing. It's his favorite. It's legitimately his favorite game of all time, like that he's ever played. So I guess I was missing out by not playing it because.
Yeah, I'd say to be honest, if you get the chance to pick it up for a couple quid, a couple euros. Do it if you can, but it's not a life-changing game, but it's just one of those games that you can sit back, play, and get through and just enjoy it.
I don't like the whole like problem-solving type thing. I don't, like, my brain's just not wired for that. I know most games are based around
problem-solving per se, yeah, in a way.
Yeah, but when it's not disguised cleverly enough. I really do struggle with it. Like, I don't know what it is. It's just that my brain just has no mathematical capabilities at all. Like, I can't do that. Like, I can't really play those. I think that's maybe why I was so. That's why I've never played Portal as well, is because it just looks difficult. And in fact, Resident Evil 4. One criticism that I would have of all the previous Resident Evil games was that they all required you to do some sort of puzzle in the middle of them for some reason, because you know how in real life it's a zombie apocalypse and you have to get 3 keys and match them and go fuck off. But yeah, in Resident Evil 4 there was one mission that I couldn't do. This is probably my only criticism of the game, was that you had to complete some kind of puzzle and it was like color coordinated but also numerical or something. And I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. My cousin had to do it for me. Like, he had to tell me where to put everything on the controller because I couldn't do it. And it also reminds me a little bit of that game that you're mad about at the moment, is that 2048 game. I can't play that. I have no idea what I'm doing. And my mate had to link me one it's like 2048, but it's the Doge meme. And you just have to, that's the one I can play because it's a bunch of that really cool dog. Like, so I can play that, but the number one, like, nah, I can't do it.
No, I mean, I've always just enjoyed. Well, I say always just enjoyed. I've really enjoyed the puzzle-based games. You mentioned Portal, and it really is a fantastic game. It doesn't quite make top 5, as it were, because I've still got one more that's sneaking in there from my real childhood, along with a couple other honourable mentions, as it were.
Yeah,
but I really enjoy the kind of puzzle aspect of it, and there are times when I hate myself because I'm too stupid to figure it out.
Yeah,
but then I figure it out and I feel like a genius again, so it's okay.
All of it for me is hating myself for not being able to figure it out. Like, when I was in school, I had to do ordinary level maths because I just couldn't do higher level. And like, I'm quite good at certain, like, if you give me like fractions and tell me to, the one where you have to write the reciprocal of certain fractions just to complete the sum and stuff, I'm well capable of doing all of that. I'm well capable of following certain formulas. But algebra used to actually make my brain pulsate. Like, I could feel my brain rattling around in my head, and it hurt. Like, it just hurt to try and figure it out. And my teachers and all were just like, "Oh, that's good. It's exercising your brain." And I'm like, "Bitch, this is not good. This hurts my head. I can't do this." Like, and I don't know. I kind of just have completely stayed away from that. I was always better at literature. And I guess this is the perfect time to talk about what my number 1 all-time favorite game is. So it's Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty, and this was a PlayStation exclusive at the time. It was one of the first games that came out on the PS2, as far as I remember. And by the way, you can buy the Metal Gear HD collection for like 30 quid now, even less probably, and it's for the PlayStation 3, and it's all the Metal Gear games in HD except for the first one. That's not there, unfortunately, but if you get the opportunity to do it, because they're so worth playing. But Metal Gear Solid 2 was the first postmodern game, which that gets thrown around a lot, but it's actually pretty significant. A lot of people's criticisms about Metal Gear Solid 2 were that it was far too convoluted, and if you understand postmodernism in general, it's really convoluted. Like, I don't even understand it. It's an arts movement, and there's so many different branches of it, and that's why it makes the game so convoluted, I think. But it also deals with a huge range of topics, which just adds to people's confusion. Like, you've got topics in there like the power of artificial intelligence, the future of social structures. You've also got themes like child soldiers and violence and stuff, and then like political conspiracies, like media censorship, how you, like, there's even philosophical things in there, like, is everything that I feel just a dream, or is everything virtual, or like, it's just incredibly detailed. But all the characters have really detailed stories about their pasts and who they are, which not a lot of games do to this level of depth. But in the gameplay, you start off with Solid Snake, who is seen as kind of the ultimate badass. He's like the John McClane of... Well, even John McClane wasn't as experienced... Well, yeah, he's like the John McClane of sort of stealthy espionage kind of guys. You start off on a tanker. It's like the perfect sequel to the first game, because you're Snake and you're working with Otacon again, and everything's real like badass and stuff. But you only play as Snake for about 45 minutes on your first go, and then it changes completely, and you end up playing as this character called Raiden, who everybody hates because he looks like a girl and he's not badass enough. And to that I just say, like, look at yourself. Like Raiden doesn't really know anything that's going on around him. He's very confused about pretty much everything. He has this real like struggle with the self and things like that, and it's just really you basically play as a metaphor for yourself, like your standard teenager who plays video games to escape from, you know, everything around him and stuff. And that's the kind of character that he is. And like this game, everyone says like Raiden's such a pussy and all, and it's like, is he though? Or is he just like, the reason that you don't like him is because he reminds you too much of yourself, and you want to play as this ideal perfect killing machine, but instead you have to play with a guy who's got a conscience and all that stuff. And I don't know, it really, the criticism he got really annoyed me. Like, it's just so, I guess if it came out now, people would be a lot more willing to accept it, I think, because society's come a long way. But
somehow I don't think the reasons for people not wanting to play with him are as introspective as that. But I think there is definitely also a chance that when you first played it, it was I don't know if this sounds stupid in my head, because I know that there are still 13-year-olds around today, but mostly, you know, that kind of age group would, you know, I say that kind of age group, you know, a younger crowd might have been playing it, and they've grown up to where you are now if you were playing it now, and that's how it would be, if that makes sense.
No, it does. I think what I said there about the reason people hate him is because he reminds them too much of themselves. That just sounds really awesome to say. It's just a very, very, very detailed analytical look at it, but it's also like at least semi-accurate, because there are parts in the game where you're talking to the colonel, who he's like your mission control. He's the guy you call whenever something's up, and he starts going a little bit crazy. And what happens is, I guess it's a spoiler, but at the same time, this game has so much replayability that even if you knew the story, when you play through it, you're still going to learn so many things that will blow your mind. But he learns that his mission control and everything is sort of just a simulation, and he loses faith in kind of all of his authority figures and his peers, and it's very much like a perfect metaphor for somebody who's in secondary school and they don't know what social clique they belong to, and they find that the teachers are, you know, really heavy-handed, and they just treat them like a number, and the people who are supposed to be the ones who are inspirational and exhibit all these leadership qualities are actually just a joke, and they're really just there to collect their paycheck and stuff. I just find that this game does that so well. And there's even parts in it where the game tells you to stop playing and stuff. Like, it sort of breaks the fourth wall in a really artistic way. And I don't know, it's all these little things that make the game so good for me. But there's one part that just will always blow my mind, is at the end of the game when Raiden says, "Who am I really?" and Snake just says, "There's no such thing as complete reality. Like, everything that you've experienced is yours and it's real, but like everything at the same time can be seen as fiction." And what he's talking about there is celebrity culture, and the fact that, like, you might say that you love a celebrity or you'd love to meet a celebrity someday, but at the end of the day they are just a product and they could be completely different in reality. This is why the game is not looked back on fondly, is because it has so many layers to it. It's just crazy. Like, I'd love to talk about it more, but I think most of the people won't really be able to relate to it anyways, and you haven't ever played it and stuff. So
no, I mean, I'm happy to sit here and listen to you talking about it, but it probably doesn't make the best for a podcast where there's meant to be two of us.
Yeah, that's why I feel bad. So
yeah, I mean, you know, you describing it, I've never really massively been interested in Metal Gear Solid, so to speak, but I mean, the way you talk about it really makes me feel like I should really sit down and give it a proper go when I have time.
Yeah, it's very, very complicated, and some people will say it's unnecessarily complicated, but I think the fact that it has so many layers means that you can find so much more meaning from it. And the guy who made the game, Hideo Kojima, is a huge film fan. Like, he's a film nut, like, and he has all little references to movies and characters, and I think he's legitimately a creative genius. Like, he's just I don't know, his eye for detail and his ability to use poetic devices to tell a story, I just think it's incredible. Like, but then again, Japanese people are incredible at metaphor. Like, that's a legitimate thing. Like, the movie Battle Royale have you seen that movie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that movie is fucking incredible, and that's a metaphor for going from secondary school education to either the workplace or third level education, and finding out how vicious and cutthroat it is, because in Japan they had the overpopulation thing and, you know, rising unemployment. That's what that movie's about. How ridiculous is that? Like, that's the most ridiculous metaphor in the world. Like,
yeah.
they're incredible at coming up with that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, going back quickly to what you said about people not enjoying it because it's got so many layers. I mean, I'm not sure that's, you know, if anyone claims that is a reason they don't like something, you're probably not playing a video game, you know, not to the level that you should be playing it.
Yeah.
But you're not enjoying it at the level you could be, as it were. I mean, if you went to watch, I mean, sure, there are films out there that you watch because it's a kind of, you turn your brain off and you watch the explosions happen kind of film.
Yeah, Michael Bay.
There are plenty of those films out there, and sure, there are plenty of games out there, but Metal Gear Solid isn't a game that you play just to shoot things.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's like you don't go to watch the film Memento just to enjoy the visuals.
That's actually a fucking brilliant point, because Hideo Kojima himself has said that gaming can never be seen as a true art form because it doesn't do enough to immerse you into the world that it's in. But I think he's wrong, because of the games that we are seeing, and, like, ironically his own game that are coming out more recently, is that, like, what you're talking about is the person who wants to play it to complete it. Like, it's kind of like the problem solving thing, is that they want to just solve the problems and then get on with their lives like it was a Sudoku or something. But for me, I want the experience of it. I want the moral that the writer is trying to tell me. Like, I want to feel what the characters are feeling and stuff, like an art form.
Yeah. Also, this you saying about playing it to complete it, not to experience it.
Yeah.
Like, there's a short little poem that has stuck around with me for the last couple of years. I saw it a few years ago. It was like a picture of a dog in a rubber ring on the ocean with sunglasses on, and it had this little poem underneath, and it said, You know, he knows not where he's going, for the ocean will decide. It's not the destination, it's the journey of the ride.
Oh yeah.
Or it's the glory of the ride. And, you know, that just, you know, even something as simple and as silly as something like that, you know, it's not about getting to the finish. And sure, the finish is essentially the pinnacle and the crux. You're playing it to... There's more than just the ending.
Yeah, exactly.
You're playing it to experience the thing as a whole, not just to experience the ending.
Yeah, that's the most profound way of looking at how I experience video games, and I'm sure you do too. Like,
I think that extends out into film as well a lot.
And like the way certain people live their lives is like, you're not for some people who just aren't goal orientated at all, is you're just here for the ride. Like, I think that's a perfectly appropriate philosophy.
Yeah. I'm not sure how to follow on from that.
I was just going to say, there is no way that you can segue from this into what you're about to talk about.
So I think I'm just going to say I really enjoy Pokemon Yellow. That's a thing.
We'll leave it there. So thanks for that. Just kidding. Yeah, I played. These were the Game Boy games.
Yeah, the old Game Boy, not even quite color. Mm-hmm. But I got a Game Boy Color, actually. This is actually on Game Boy Color, and I got a cartridge that was a 32-in-1 games, and one of the games on it, and it was from Spain, which was odd, or maybe it was Portugal. It was from one of my grandparents brought back this Game Boy and cartridge that had 32 games in one, and one of them was Pokemon Yellow, and at the time Pokemon Red and Blue had or Blue had only just been released, so Yellow was a very out there concept. Yeah,
I actually have almost the exact same story as that, because my cousin used to live in America, and when he came back from America, he had the yellow version, and nobody fucking had it. Mm-hmm. And like, it was like the #1 thing, and everyone was like, oh my god, it's like, yeah, it was a serious commodity. Like, it was a hot product that everybody wanted.
Yeah, it was on this little, I remember it, I think I've still got it in my bedroom at my parents', but this little grey cartridge, and it had games on it like Tetris and stuff like that as well.
Shout out to Tetris.
Yeah, big shout out, big what up. And then it had Pokemon Yellow on it, on like the 4th page of games that you went to. It had Pokemon Yellow. And you know, that consumed my life for the next God knows, you know, how many years.
Yeah.
And just Pokemon Yellow, because the difference, if anyone hasn't managed to guess or know, Pokemon Yellow, the difference between Pokemon Yellow and Pokemon Red and Blue is that Pokemon Yellow, you could start out just straight up just with Pikachu, and it just jumps out behind you, and it's like, yo, what's up, let's roll. That's the easiest way I can describe that.
I evolved Pikachu to a Raichu, and I don't give a fuck. Do it again.
That is the most daring thing I've heard someone say in a while.
And I honestly.
And I do it again.
Yep. Without a you know, Pikachu, I didn't even like him that much, and
he gets annoying. I'm not gonna lie, he gets annoying.
He's a whiny little prick.
Shit, yeah.
Yeah, like, he really, really is. And like, I was out with a few of my mates like about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, and we were actually talking about Pokemon, and I said, like, yeah, I evolved them, I didn't give a fuck. And then I said I didn't really like Pikachu, and my mates immediately went like, oh, of course you didn't, because you're a hipster, you don't like anything that's popular. And I was like, no, that's not what it is at all. He was just so whiny. Like, the best was Charmander, because he evolved all the way up to a Charizard. This is in the thing itself, in the video, say it for me. In the series.
In the show, in the series.
Yeah, in the episodes, he evolved all the way up to a Charizard, and then he just turned into a moody bastard who just didn't want to do anything that Ash told him to do. Yeah. And I thought that was great. He was the only Pokemon with character development. Like, the one thing I want from a TV show is character development, and Charizard gave me that. So Charmander goes down. Like, shout out to Charmander. He's the best Pokemon, because he just didn't remain his whiny 7-year-old emo, stupid looking cat self, you know. And that's that.
I'm not sure. You know, there's not much you can really say about. I say there's not much you can say about Pokemon, but everyone knows Pokemon, whether they've played it or not. Everyone knows what Pokemon is, what Pokemon's about, and
yeah, it was a cultural phenomenon.
it was ridiculous. I mean, it was the first real viral. It was the first real viral game, I suppose. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but
yeah, it was the biggest thing in the world at one point.
yeah,
like,
yeah,
it was
by far, but yeah, and not just in terms of games. It was the biggest thing, full stop.
Oh yeah, even as a product, like
yeah,
on every TV channel, and it was.
And the fact that it's still making decent. I know people. In fact, there's a guy that I'm friends with at university who still plays the Pokemon trading card game.
Holy Jesus balls!
And
Who
he plays
does that?
He plays it to the point where he was a couple of years ago like #1 in the world at it or something.
Sweet zombie Jesus.
Yeah, like that is if that doesn't encapsulate how popular Pokemon was as a game, that nearly 20 years later, 18, 19. I don't know how long this game's been out for.
Jesus, has it been that long? Fuck,
Mate,
I guess it
I
has.
don't know, somewhere between 15 and 20. I suppose that's quite a large gap, but
Yeah, no, it was definitely late night. Well, let's see, my cousin came back from America around 98, so yeah.
yeah,
Whoa,
98 sounds about right, yeah. And the fact that people are still playing the trading card game
yeah.
and that's not even the original genesis of the game, is
No,
a
yeah, I know.
testament to how much of a phenomenon Pokemon is.
Yeah, you couldn't. In the late 90s, there was definitely an era or like a moment where you could not escape from Pokemon. It was everywhere. One thing I find really interesting about Pokemon is that the reason that I kind of held back from talking about the game so much there is because all of my Pokemon knowledge it fell out of my head one day, and I don't know when. Like, I went from knowing every single Pokemon. I could name all 150. I could name what they evolve into and what they evolve into, and I could do all of that stuff. But I just forgot, and I don't forget things. I
know exactly what you mean. I know I can tell you almost exactly what happens at the start of the Pokemon game.
Yeah.
Beyond you choosing your character name and having your first Pokemon fight. After that, it's a blur.
Yeah.
It really is just gone.
But I think about the same time, I could name to you the 1999/2000 Celtic team from start to finish, including their squad numbers. I'd probably forget, 5 or 6 players for sure, but I can do that from memory because I could even name the 2001-2002 Tottenham Hotspur team, including squad numbers, because I loved football that much. But I cannot name even I could name probably about maybe 20 Pokemon if I thought really hard about it, and that's it. The rest are just gone, and I don't know how that happened.
It's odd. A lot about Pokemon is odd, not just the whole forgetting things.
Did you ever? I once did a live commentary where I mentioned this blog called The Truth About Pokemon, and I linked it, and I tweeted about it recently. I don't know if you ever saw. Did you ever hear that theory?
I don't know.
It was the idea that Ash was cycling his bike one day, and
and is it the one where he fell off and was in a coma? Yeah.
I think that's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I think we can do a whole nother podcast on these whole not fan fictions, because that's something completely different.
Yeah, fan theories.
Fan theories about ones, because things like the Rugrats one as well.
Yeah, and even the James Bond. Yeah, no, let's do that. Let's do that for.
Okay, yeah.
That's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
So now you've all got that to look forward to.
Look forward to that one. Feel free to suggest any that you think we should talk about, so we don't gloss over or forget them.
Yeah, that's true. Also, if you would like us to do another nostalgic countdown about music or movies, let us know. We'll do that too. We like things and stuff.
I'm grimacing slightly at the thought of my music nostalgia already.
I think if we do a music one, as a rule, when we list the albums, we have to listen to them all from start to finish before we do
Jesus.
the podcast.
I can't, like, because I know I'll have to listen to something like Good Charlotte.
The young and the hopeless.
Yeah. And I know that's going to be a thing that I'd have to do.
Yeah. It has to happen.
But before how long has this been going on now?
I don't know, because we talked for a long time before
Yeah.
the.
Well,
Will we do the honourable mentions?
yeah, I think honourable mentions. There's one that I really want to point out, and it was Sonic the Hedgehog
Oh yeah.
on the Sega Game Gear,
Yeah.
which was the handheld Sega console.
I never actually got the opportunity. I never owned one of those. I used to play it at my friend's house after school every day.
Yeah.
But that game was.
I owned
ridiculous.
one, and it went everywhere with me.
Yeah.
It went everywhere, and Sonic was the only game that I played for on it. That
I
was
don't
the
even like even
Right.
if you told me that they made another game other than Sonic for it, I wouldn't
Yeah.
believe you.
No, that was the game that I played, and I didn't know anyone else that had one. I just played it, and that was mine, and
Yeah.
I played it constantly. And then one day, when we got home from being wherever, my parents were driving. Obviously, I wasn't driving. And it had been a long journey, and I'd fallen asleep in the back of the car, and I was still young enough at this point for one of my parents, my dad, I'm assuming, to carry me in to the house.
Oh
And my
no.
mum picked up the Sega Game Gear, and she dropped it
Oh, what a
and broke
bitch.
it. Yeah, and this is I don't even know when the Sega Game Gear came out. Like
I would say
my
it's
my
probable it came out in the late 80s.
yeah, my two memories of the Sega Game Gear are adoring it and then hating my mother because she dropped it.
Is that what you have? My mum is a bitch tattooed to your forehead.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Oh, I knew there was something connected with that.
It's also the reason that whenever she calls me to check up on how I'm doing at uni, I just scream, "I'll never forgive you."
And that's why you cry in the shower and everything.
Yeah, she is the reason I drink for that one thing. That's the reason I drink.
Oh, that is a
But,
tragedy.
Yeah, it wasn't even that good. Looking at it now, I've just googled it quickly, and it was a lot chunkier than I remember it being. But then again, you know, it came out in 1990.
Ah, it was so close.
91, 99, 1991. I was born in 93, so it predates me.
Yeah.
You know. But I adored that thing, and then she dropped it, and I never quite forgave her.
It's really I played you know Ty, you've met Ty. I stayed with him in Northampton for a week, and oh, that's really weird. I just got a deja vu. I had a dream that I was in Northampton last night, and well, it was a nightmare because I was in Northampton. But that's really weird. I just got a deja vu. But we downloaded Crash Bandicoot off the PSN store, and it's just in hindsight, or just now, it's not a good game anymore. Like, it was not fun to play, and it was really hard as well. Because you can't use the analog sticks, you got to use the arrows.
Ah, of course.
Yeah, so
Because that was that's PS1.
Yeah, so it's actually
Before
really,
they
really
even
difficult
had
to
analog
play.
sticks.
Yeah, and I don't know how my thumbs aren't like I don't know how they don't have arrows engraved on them from hammering down that thing, like. But that game has not aged well.
Another game that I remember fondly is Lara Croft Tomb Raider for the PS1.
Yes, those
That
games, all of them,
Yeah.
were fucking amazing.
Yeah, that was I have this another because a lot of my memories of for some reason of early gaming aren't even me playing. It's watching other people or playing with other people.
Yeah.
Playing games with other people. But anyway, it was watching someone play Lara Croft's Tomb Raider, and just the game was fantastic. And there was that puzzle element and of figuring out how to get across, this next little opening of water that if you fell in, and it had the square bubbles that meant you were drowning.
Yeah. Again, though, that game disguised that puzzle well enough to make me continue with it. Which is the key to a good game, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, that's another game that's got to go on the honourable mentions list.
I remember, I think it was Tomb Raider 3, where there was one mission where you're on a train and you had to like jump onto the roof of the train, and you were killing, like, I think they were like gangsters, or sort of like the gangsters from, or the bad guys from the movie The Mummy, which do you remember that movie with Brendan Fraser? That movie was awesome back in the day. And when that movie was popular, Tomb Raider 3 was out, and they were very similar thematically, and that helped me to, like, you know, just like it a little bit more. But I remember getting really, really far into that game, and like the landscape kept on changing to these incredible, like, forgotten worlds and stuff like that, and I really, really like that. Like, you know how I mentioned in a previous one that I don't subscribe to the notion of cryptozoology being real, but I really, really like it for works of fiction and stuff, and Tomb Raider was like that. I really liked the whole lost cities and ancient curses and stuff like that. It was just awesome at the time, and I didn't even think about how stupid it was that her figure made no sense. She was like the Nicki Minaj of female leads, and those two desert eagles that would have weighed like I don't know how many pounds. And do you know how improbable it is that somebody would be able to use two guns like at the same time to kill someone? But it didn't matter because those games were just so
those awkwardly triangular 7-pixel tits. Those are the good old days of my youth.
There's actually wasn't there a way to, when you were doing the kind of the training in her house, there was a way to get her to take her top off or something?
Yeah, I think there was.
What was I doing with my life that I thought that was something I should try?
I don't know, but I'm sure I was doing something similar.
Yeah, but it makes no sense because...
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the whole screen was about 20 pixels and 7 of them were her tits, 9 of them were her arse.
Yeah.
And the rest of the pixels were made up of the rest of her body and guns.
Yeah.
So.
And the odd crocodile here and there. And that was it. That's such a weird thing that people did that, because, and like including me, but it wasn't really to try and see anything. It was more to see if you could see anything, I think.
Yeah.
It was weird. I'm going to say another honorable mention goes to Need for Speed Underground, the original.
Oh, yeah.
They had Need for Speed and Need for Speed Hot Pursuit or something before.
Need for Speed Underground 2 and 3 and...
Yeah, but they were all
Most
shit.
Wanted, yeah.
The best one was the original Underground because it came out around the same time as the Fast and the Furious, and I was never a car guy. My cousin's always been the car guy in the family, but I really liked how these tacky cereal box-esque cars looked at the time with the stupid neon lights, where if I saw a car with a neon light on it now, I would think it's a 12-year-old driving. Like, I think they look pathetic, but at the time those were incredible, and I just had to have my car with neon lights and nitrous oxide and all of these amazing things. But that game was really interesting because all you really did was drive. Like, that's literally all it was, and then you got to customize your car and make it go faster, but there was nothing else to it. There was a linear narrative. I wouldn't call it a story, but that was it. And the most fun part was adding new things to your car, with the money that you'd win from underground races and stuff.
And the only reason you'd really go back to doing more races is to make sure you had enough money to add that sick tribal decal.
Yeah.
That you could have in whatever god-awful colour.
Yeah, that is exactly it.
Yeah, finding the biggest spoiler you could.
Yeah.
Waiting to unlock that bad boy so that you could have the most ridiculous looking spoiler.
I'm so glad I don't drive and that I don't do anything like that.
I'm so glad I couldn't, you know, if my dad had said to me, son, this is providing we're ridiculously rich, son, you can choose what our next car looks like. Oh God. Oh good God. It would have been horrendous.
Yeah. It would have been the worst thing.
It would, yeah. My choice of style back in the day when Need for Speed Underground was a thing was I'm not really even sure what to say, because I know that at some point I had a bright silver car or a bright purple car with a nice cool white tribal decal all over it.
Jesus.
Yep.
I always went for green or else orange. Those are kind of my two favorite colors, I think.
Yeah, purple's the one for me.
I really liked purple because it's a very deep color, but
Yeah.
actually my cars on GTA at the moment are no, they're not. They're not. They're green and orange. What the fuck am I talking about? They're not purple at all. But no, yeah, I can feel a lot of love for purple too, but
Actually, having mentioned Need for Speed Underground, I want to get one more in. Is Midnight Club.
Oh, I never played it, but I always wanted to. Wasn't that made by Rockstar?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
I really enjoyed it. Again, there was no narrative really. There was just you went to a crossroads of traffic lights, held down brake and accelerate at the same time, and then you went into a race.
Really?
And yeah, that's as far as I can remember.
Was it made as a direct competitor to Need for Speed, or was it just made like to kind of capitalize on the like Fast and Furious?
I'm not completely sure. I think it was just to capitalise on that massive kind of boom of car, car love, as it were, around that time, because a lot of supercars were getting released around that time as well.
Yeah, they were.
As far as I remember. But yeah, Midnight Club Los Angeles. In fact, actually, that was from 2000. Well, the street racing one was 2000. Midnight Club Los Angeles was 2008.
What year was Fast and Furious? 2001, I'm gonna guess.
Something like that.
Maybe the movies capitalized on just a general like cultural, resurgence in popularity for supercars or something.
Yeah, 2001 Fast and Furious.
Yeah, I thought so.
The first one, yeah.
That's weird. The late 90s / early 2000s were fucking insane. Like, have you ever noticed the way people talk about like 70s culture and 80s culture a lot, like, and the 60s, and like these are really culturally significant for so many different reasons, with bands getting popular, and like we can look back on them and pick out any bands that have made it, like that have, like obviously all the garbage gets scraped down whenever you look at things like that, but the 90s and the 2000s, like there's nothing like the two, like Oasis were huge, and now you cannot meet someone who loves Oasis and is allowed to love them without being shot down because of it. And like other bands, like any band who came out around that time, you're really not allowed to like them now. It's really weird. It's like this. It was just so insane that we've actually spent every moment since then trying to forget it. Like
yeah. I think a lot of it has to do with the frosted tips of hair and things like that.
Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah, I think that like whereas you can look back now on the 70s and the 80s and go, those people were cool.
Yeah.
You can't look back on anyone in the 90s and the 2000s and go, yeah, those people were cool.
No.
Because you can't look at anyone that has frosted spiked tips of their hair and go, yep, that guy right there, he was cool.
Linkin Park have done a really good job of escaping that image, haven't they? Like, they're really, really popular now. They're one of the most popular bands in the world. They have done so well to evolve with the times and escape new metal and stuff.
Justin Timberlake has done well to escape his old style when he was in NSYNC.
Oh yeah, huge shout out to Justin Timberlake.
Yeah,
what a guy.
What a guy.
Yeah, he's just done a great job of maintaining his success.
Yep.
I think unless he was in a video game, I think we're probably at the end of everything that we have here.
Yeah, I think we're done here.
Yeah. Yeah, so thanks for coming on the show, and to you people listening, thanks for listening, and give us some feedback, because obviously this is a slightly different one to usual, so
yep.
Yeah, that's that. Fuck this.
Peace.
Trying to reach higher ground anywhere. excuse